Hey everyone, today I want to talk about why OCD tends to latch onto our values, what we care about the most. I also want to give some practical examples about what I value and how I've kind of navigated the landscape of unconditionally accepting self-life and other acceptance on these particular things, and why agreement doesn't mean acceptance is such a large part of when it comes to the value thing. Before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button, comment down below. Let me know what you think specifically about value type stuff, because right now I'm seeing a lot of stuff, trust your values, trust your gut. If people don't respect your values, they have to know. Or, if people don't respect your values, dump them immediately. These are all very immediate 0 to 100 sensations that people don't like to feel. This goes way beyond OCD and anxiety recovery, where you more than likely want to sit with the discomfort of having someone disagree with you. And we'll talk all about that. So, and if you're interested in our coaching and webinar services, please email us at info@ocdrecovery.com and we'll get back to you in a timely fashion. So, let's start with this. What are the things in my life that I value? I think this is actually a great place to start. My work and my career, advancing in my work and my career. My health, that includes exercising, building muscle, feeling healthy, cardiovascular fitness by hiking. I value hardship, learning lessons from hardship, and going towards situations that might not make me feel the most comfortable, not compulsively, but challenging myself. I definitely value challenging myself. I value, obviously my family type stuff. So I value the relationship with my mother, which is a lot stronger now, because a lot of my life I thought, a lot of this is common with family members specifically, my mom and my dad don't agree with me, I can't really get along with them. I've completely mended the relationship with my own mother strictly by changing my own beliefs. I didn't have anyone change anything. I had to realize that all I could do was control the belief that I had and change that in the future. My relationship with my wife, I value that. And I don't think that marriage is inherently better or worse than anything else. I think there's some really strong black and white irrational beliefs surrounding marriage. Monogamy is the only thing that's important, and this is not true. There's nothing wrong with being promiscuous and going out there and doing whatever you want to do, as long as you're aware that those behaviors might bring other sorts of annoyances, like more deceptiveness. Maybe you have to lie a little bit more. You have to be a little bit more sneaky, but you can actually accept those things. Again, I'm not saying whether I agree or disagree. I'm talking about the realities. I always tell people, if you're looking at a value type system and someone's saying you must need this, the only thing that we know for sure is that we die. I think it's very important to cover multiple times in videos. And even something like water and food. I used to say that a lot, right? You need water and food. Well, that's if you have a purpose of survival. If you don't want to be here anymore, you don't need water and food. I think that's very key. So everything is up to interpretation. We always try to move with open, non-black and white, demanding shoulds and must talk, because the only thing that we know is that we pass away. So everything else is really up to interpretation. And then what we see and kind of correlate, like, I see a lot of people that hold this belief. I also see a lot of people who tend to be black and white and very, very needing to exert their power over other people when they hold that belief. And this is why we kind of move away from that in a more open dialect. So those are the things I really value. So where is it that OCD really went for? That's my personal body image with my body dysmorphia and my comfort in life. Because even though I liked hardship and challenges, I also valued my downtime without ever putting a title. I never thought I enjoy my downtime. But if I was sitting on the couch and reading, and I would become very anxious, I would literally not be anxious, sit on the couch, pick up a book, start reading, and immediately become anxious. I think this is something that many people can relate to. And that's what it does, because it really wants to disrupt that pattern of value that you hold. Now, the major values that we work with are, family relationships, religious values, work values, money values, respect values. And the problem with values is no value is a universal principle. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's not true, because a lot of people value being a good person. But there's a lot of people that don't value being a good person, because we know that because there's a lot of atrocities where they have a particular view of what they think being a good person is versus what other people value. So there's no universal principle of values. There are values that cultures and society hold. But if you go to a cannibal tribe, 4,000 years ago, the value that they held on maybe killing relatives and eating them as a sacrifice is a different value system than, say, a modern society today in New York City. So values are always subjective to change. This is very easy to break down in theory once you just sit down and methodically look at how, oh, okay, I can see that these people hold a value, maybe a context of spirituality, but then there's other people that don't hold any spiritual context whatsoever. So how do you know who's right or wrong? And there's no right or wrong. Even if 100 people out of a room of 101 hold the same value, right? They value being a good person, and then that one person values it, but they don't hold it in a universal demand. Just because 100 people hold it doesn't mean it's correct. It doesn't mean it's not better for society as a whole. A lot of the values that we hold from like a crime perspective are usually good for the better outcome of a society, but they're not universal principles, no matter what anyone says. If they were a universal principle, that if a person didn't hold that value universally, a lightning bolt would come down and strike them and kill them immediately. That doesn't happen. It's never going to happen yet. So we have a very good idea, more than likely, from a statistical analysis standpoint, that these values that we hold are purely belief systems, and they don't need to be universally upheld. Now, when we have a culture that has a value of you must respect me and you must listen to me, a lot of people hold that value. I also like being respected. I also like when people hear me in the conversation. But I've also worked towards realizing that I don't need that to be respected in order to live a content and happy life. And it's not about a happy life, oh, I'm always happy. It's about pockets of happiness, because happiness is a fleeting emotion. The more you try to capture happiness in a bottle, the least likely you are to experience happiness, especially in an OCD and anxiety standpoint. So again, there's nothing wrong with holding values. Values have a lot of great benefits. Let's talk about that for a little bit too. What can they do? Personal meaning, individual purpose, what they drive you towards, not universal purpose, what you decide your purpose is. Right now, my purposes in life are building my business, furthering my relationship, closeness with my wife and my friendships in my life, going to music festivals, which I more than likely will do forever, building and growing awareness around OCD recovery from a personal perspective standpoint, which I think has a lot of merit, and staying healthy. Those values might change. Maybe I start going to the cigar bar a lot more, and I start playing poker a lot again because I like playing poker. And my health kind of slips a little bit, but I start valuing the game of poker and smoking cigars and having conversations about wisdom. Sure, I'm with older people. Sure, I'm not the healthiest person, but I could value that and accept that. So these values that you hold, the most important thing you could do for yourself when going through OCD and anxiety recovery is breaking down the demand and the need for other people to respect your values. It's the standpoint that we hold them on. So let me give you an example. Let's say you believe in the afterlife, okay? You have that belief. I believe when you die, nothing happens. Neither of us can prove 100% who's right or who's wrong. So number one, we could talk about the values that we hold. Hey, I think when you die, nothing happens. It's like being asleep without dreaming. That's what it was like before life. And this is why I think it's like that. Someone could say, well, I have conscious memories of before life. I can't prove that person wrong. I can't say that's not true. I don't know if that's not true. But coming to a mutual agreement while disrespecting is a very, very good thing to work on. Now, in most scenarios, when it comes to death, religion, money, politics, those are really the big ones that turn the room up. You more than likely are not going to come to an agreement with most people, especially if you don't know them. So you have to weigh your options. It's not about avoiding value conversations. That's what a lot of people do. Oh, they don't agree with my values, delete them, get them out of my life. But now you've instilled a belief, and you're slowly boxing in your belief systems that, oh, they don't see it this way. That means I can't agree with them. But that's not a good thing. Now, there's no line in the sand for this. There is a time where I think there's people in my life where I've tried to have conversations about money, politics, and religion. I'll use those again because it's the easiest. People hold really strong values on all three of those. It's not just politics and religion. It's money as well. You'll meet someone who has a belief system of, I'm a minimalist. I don't need a lot. And you'll meet someone who says, I want to make $15 million a year. And neither one is right or wrong. There's pros and cons to having no money and living a minimalistic life. There's pros and cons to having $25 million a year in an income. Each of them can have pros and cons with problems as well. A person who has a lot more money could have more business problems and overhead problems. The people who have no money could have problems where getting good food and higher cleanliness and in how they take care of themselves with products and that stuff. So again, it's not a simple black and white, but humans like to put black and whites on their values because it makes them feel empowered. So, and I want to end this video segueing into that empowerment. So this is the way I view empowerment. Right now, the mainstream belief system is empowerment is holding a belief system and then throwing that onto you. And I disagree with that. I see why people have that belief, but in my opinion, the best empowerment one can do for themselves is looking at stimulus and response, Viktor Frankl's quote, and there's a place in between to kind of think about your thinking. That doesn't mean you're not going to feel uncomfortable, chronic shame, guilt, anger, resentment, kind of lifting up like a furnace, but you're giving yourself an opportunity to experience that, okay, experience those sensations without needing to act out. That's a skill and an art that will take some time to learn. And realizing that my values and my principles and my morals are just unique to myself. One of the books that Rob and I talk about a lot is Ray Dalio, hedge fund manager, his company called Bridgewater. He wrote a book 4 or 5 years ago called Principles. I bought his read-along journal, which I have right here, which I've been using for the last couple months, where you write in your own principles for your own life, business principles, relationship principles, and everything else in between. But those principles, again, don't need to be respected by other people. If they did need to be respected, then they would be respected. If fairness always existed, then every criminal would be punished. But we know that's not true. People commit horrendous crimes and go free, or they never go to trial. So I really wanted to hone in on principles, and and values. We're going to talk a little bit more about principles and values. We'll probably have a webinar, hopefully, covering these particular things, because a lot of people are kind of stuck on this because of the information out there. You know, these are your values, these are your morals. Anyone that's trying to empower you to hold something rigidly, and if someone else doesn't agree with you, you have to blast it in their face, that's something to be wary of, because that is how conditional other acceptance and conditional life acceptance kind of form and snowball into this compounding interest type issue, to where then you think that if someone doesn't agree with you, then they have to be wrong. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions on morals and values, or want to know more about the ones I hold, comment down below and we'll get back to you soon. Again, info@ocdrecovery.com. Hopefully to hear from you. And as always, have a great one, guys.